and Laura. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone joining us today. My name is Daniela. I am based here in Glasgow, the biggest city in Scotland, and I'm delighted to be leading today's webinar on IELTS Writing Task 2, Problems and Solutions Essays. I'm also delighted that so many of you could join us from every part of the world. Great representation you'll hear as I read those countries out. And we're also well represented in our team behind the scenes. So in Q&A today, we have the rest of the IELTS team on hand to answer your questions. So please say hello to Leila in London, Mariana in Zagreb, Croatia, Sarah, Paris, France, and Aidan in Wales. Hello to the team. And we'd like to start by asking you a question. This first poll question is about your relationship with IELTS. Have you taken an IELTS test already, and what score do you need? This should pop up on your screen. If it doesn't, just listen to the question again. Have you taken an IELTS test already? What score do you need? Put your answer in the chat if you cannot see the poll. Remember, everyone, answers in the chat. If you cannot see the poll, do not put answers in Q&A simply because I can't see them there. Thanks, Rima, saying not yet, you're looking for a band 8. Thanks for that. Okay, let's have a look at the results of the poll. Great, okay, so a few of you have taken the test already at 19%, but the majority are preparing to sit it for the first time, with band scores varying between a band 5 and a band 9, with the majority between a 7 and an 8. Please remember, though, that this webinar is designed for all of you, whichever band you're aiming for. Hello, Shuku, welcome back. Our next question is about these British Council IELTS webinars. Have you attended one of these before? We do recognise a few names, as I've already shouted out, Shuku and Lisa, for example. Have you attended these before, and how did you hear about the webinar? Remember, answers to my questions at the moment are in the poll or in the chat box. Welcome, Uche saying that you heard about it from a friend. That's great. Okay, let's have a look at the results of that poll question. Okay, so the majority of you have been here before and you keep coming back for more. That's a really good sign. Myself and the rest of the team are so pleased to see that. And we're also really pleased to welcome the 42% of you who are joining us for the first time. Interesting that a lot of you are mentioning the British Council website, including AMNA in the chat. That's really good. We are going to talk a little bit more about that website at the end of today's webinar, so do stay until the end. The next question is about this. This is the British Council IELTS study pack. When you register for the webinar, you're automatically registered for this. So we want to know, have you received it yet? And if yes, have you found it useful? When you register for these weekly webinars, you're given your registration details for the British Council IELTS study pack. When you go to log on, you use your registered email address and the password that's been sent to you. Don't worry if you don't remember it, you can always reset it here. Let's have a look at the results of that poll, because we do have a bit of a split. So 35% of you are saying that you've not received it yet. Do click on the link. Mariana's about to share the link with you in the chat box. Do make sure that you click on that and log in, because you'll see that those who are using it are finding it very useful. So over the next hour, we will cover the IELTS writing test, task 2, problems and solutions, and have time for your questions. We want to continue keeping this interactive, so I have the chat box open for the next hour. When I ask you a question, that's when I read your answer. But when you have a question, type it in the Q&A box. It might not be possible to answer everyone's questions, so if you see a question similar to yours, like it, and we know which ones to prioritise. The webinar is being recorded so that Zoom can automatically send you the link to the recording over the next 3 days or so. We're not able to answer questions about your specific test booking, so in that case, do contact your local British Council test centre. And finally, please don't share phone numbers or personal information, and let's continue to be as courteous and as friendly as we always are. Today's programme. Well, we're going to start by identifying the different essay types in Task 2 before going through the process of writing your essay. That includes planning ideas, writing your introduction, writing cohesive paragraphs. Then we're going to spend some time looking at the language of those paragraphs, the language of cause and effect. We'll finish our essay with a conclusion and we'll talk about how to check. So let me know in the chat box, are you ready? Hi, Rona. Lisa says yes, Prajit says yes. Well, if you're ready, tell me in the chat box, what do we need to write in writing task 2? What type of writing is it? It is an essay, absolutely, Laura. It's an essay. Do you have a choice of essay question? Are you given a choice of questions? No, you're right, Thomas. You have to write an essay in response to one specific question. How long should you spend on this? In the chat box, please, how long? Well done, Hin and Y. Well done, Mohit. Absolutely. 40 minutes. Why do we recommend 40 minutes? Why do you think we recommend 40 minutes for task 2? Why 40? Leanne says because it's worth twice the mark. You're right. So remember that the writing test is 60 minutes. You spend 20 minutes on task 1, which is worth 1/3 of your total writing mark, and 40 minutes on task 2 because it's worth 2/3 of your total writing mark. What about the word count? How long should your writing be? Marat, you were there before I even finished asking the question. A minimum of 250 words. So are we able to write more than that? Are we allowed to write more than that? Absolutely. Yes, we are. There is no penalty for going over. And in fact, we encourage you to exceed the 250 words. Great. Well done, everyone. So far, you seem to know quite a lot about this part of the test. Well, let me ask you something else. How many marking criteria are there? Absolutely, Mohammed. Not as many as 5, Prajit, but more than 2, Aisha. There are 4. The 4 criteria that the examiner looks at are task response, which is how fully and appropriately you have answered the question. The second one is coherence and cohesion. What's involved in coherence and cohesion? In the chat box, please. And it's okay to say, I don't know. Okay, some of you are saying, like Laura, linking words, logical organization, and a lot of people are saying, I don't know. Good. So coherence and cohesion is about the organization and progression of your essay, how well it's organized. What do you think lexical resource means? Lexical resource. Can you give me a synonym of that? Lexical resource. That's right, Marina. Ximena, it is, of course, vocabulary. And obviously, grammar is covered in grammatical range and accuracy. Let me ask you, what is this document that I'm showing you? What is this document on the screen now? What is it? Laura says it's the marking criteria. Lisa says the band descriptors. Yes, exactly that. This is exactly what the examiner is using to mark your writing. And look at the amount of detail that's given for each of the criterion. There's so much detail, I can only fit 3 bands on this screen and only 2 bands on the next screen because we've got so much information here, which means this is a really useful document for you to use. In the chat box, Mariana is going to post a link to this document so that when we're finished with today's webinar, you can, in your own time, look at the document in detail, look at your desired band. If you're aiming for a band 6, look at what is required at a band 6. Thank you, Mariana. And why not? Let's make this your homework. By this time next week, I want you to have looked at that link, look at the band descriptor, and understand what you need to do. Okay, my next question, and remember, I'm looking for answers in the chat box. So in task 2, we know that we have to write an essay, but it's not always the same type of essay question. What types of essay questions do we see, do we sometimes get in writing task 2? Great. Tejesunimi says opinion essays. Great. Any other types of essays? Let's start with that one then. Let's start with opinion. Task 2 often involves writing about your opinion. This is where you are explicitly asked to give and justify your opinion on a topic. It's much more about how you feel about the topic. And the keywords that we're looking for are the things that you mentioned: agree, disagree. Now, give me another one that's similar to this. What's another type of essay question that's similar to this? Laura says a discussion question. A lot of you mentioned this, a discussion question. Yes. So that involves balancing an argument. You can call it whatever you like. You can say discussion, you can say a balanced essay. I like to call it a two-sided argument essay. Chunkit calls it an argumentative essay. So what's the difference between an opinion essay and a two-sided argument essay? What's the difference between them? What do you think? So remember, the opinion essay is where you are explicitly asked to justify your opinion. Okay? And a lot of you are saying this. Opinion is just one opinion, right? So what about a two-sided argument? What do you think? Deepti says it's more like a debate. You have to weigh in, Katimbo says, on two different opinions. You must discuss the two opinions or the two arguments that are given to you in the question. All right. So let's move on to the type of essay we're going to look at today. What's the third type of essay? Remember, when you signed up for today's webinar, what did it say? What type of essay are we looking at in detail today? Absolutely, a problem solution. Thanks, Anfam. So when you're sitting on your testy, the first thing you need to do is to look at the question to understand what type of question is this. We're going to do a bit of practice of that now. Read this question and in the chat box tell me what type of essay question is this? Opinion, two-sided argument, or problem and solution? Okay, some of you are saying that this is a two-sided argument essay, and some of you are saying it's an opinion essay. Okay, where do you think the keywords are? What is the keywords to help you understand the type of essay? Where is it? Agree or disagree. Okay, so the question here is, to what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion? With what opinion? With what opinion? Where is the opinion here? James says, working from home, this second sentence, that home working has been a real benefit to workers. Good. So how many opinions are here? Are there two opinions here? There's only one. So there's two ways to help us identify this as an opinion essay. The first thing is this statement. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion? And the second thing is look for the opinion. There is only one opinion. There is only one argument that we are being asked to discuss. Okay, let's look at the next essay question. What type of essay is this? What type of essay is this? Is it opinion, two-sided argument, or problem and solution? Okay, well done. Everybody's got this one. What are the causes of the problem and what measures can be taken to solve them? Absolutely. This is the one we're going to work with today, so I'm going to just come back to this in a moment. Tell me what type of essay this is. What type of essay question is this one? Opinion, two-sided argument, or problem and solution? Isnad, look again, please. Look again. Oscar, look again. Some people are saying opinion and some people are saying two-sided. Well, where is the instruction? What's the clearest bit? Where is the bit that you would underline? That's telling you exactly what to do. What part would you underline? I agree with Rotnika. Discuss both these views. Discuss both. That's a real key word, that there are two sides of an argument. What are the two sides of the argument in this essay, in this question? What are they? Mohit, look again. Look, I want you to be specific about the question. Anfam says the first and the second sentence. So the first sentence says, it's generally believed that some people are born with certain talents. For instance, for sport, music, others are not. And then the second sentence is the second argument. However, it is sometimes claimed that any child can be taught. So as Beto says it, people are born with talents or can be taught. That sort of nature-nurture debates. So again, we've got two ways of identifying what type of question it is. Looking at the keywords that give us the instruction, discuss both these views, and reading the question carefully to identify, is there one opinion or is there two? But today, we're going to go back to this one. Problem and solution. How did you know this was a problem and solution essay? How did you know? How did you know, Hamid Reza, that this was a problem and solution? What were the keywords that helped you understand? Cornel says causes of the problem. Jimena says what can be done to solve the issue. So even though the word solution wasn't used, we had the verb solve. Good. What is the problem that we have to solve in this essay? Tell me in the chat box, please. Oh, be specific, Hamad. Be specific. A lot of you are saying the problem is obesity. Is it obesity? Or is it more specific than that? Well done, Ewan. That's right, Onyema. It's childhood obesity. It's important that you read the whole question carefully to be sure, first of all, of the type of essay question it is, but secondly, of the topic. Now, a lot of you answered me too quickly. You saw the word obesity and you just jumped to a conclusion that must be what this essay is about. But that wouldn't be quite right. What would it affect if you just wrote your essay about obesity? What part of the marking criteria would that affect? If you wrote about obesity in general? Absolutely, task response. because you've not fully addressed the task. This task, this question, is about childhood obesity. Now, maybe that expression is new to you. Maybe childhood obesity is not vocabulary you've seen before. But sometimes in the essay question, the topic is clarified for you. How is childhood obesity clarified? How is it rephrased in the sentence? Where's the rephrasing of it? Mercedes, give me the whole thing. Shino, give me the whole thing. Remember, we want you to try practicing a little bit more than just one word at a time. So what's the phrase here that helps you understand what we mean by childhood obesity? That's right, Conul. Well done, James. Absolutely, Shino. Children now classed as overweight. So what I'm saying here today is don't rush. The first step of writing is fully understanding the question, analysing the question to make sure you know the type of essay to write, and reading the question carefully to make sure you understand the topic. Now, on my screen, I've been able to use colour. I've used red to identify the keywords. But what could you do? You can't use colour. What could you do in the test if you're sitting the test on paper? What could you do? You can use a pencil to do what? To underline, absolutely. To underline or to draw a circle, Trinket says, around all of those important words. What if you're doing the test on computer? What if you're doing the test on computer? Donna says you can highlight the words. Absolutely. You've also got a scrap piece of paper and a pen or pencil, so you could also take a note of the keywords. Whichever way you're sitting the test, do make sure that you're paying attention to the keywords in the question. So step one, we spend a lot of time with the question. What do we do next? What do you think step two is? What's step two? Lisa says plan. Laura, before we write the introduction, we need to prepare our ideas. Kijisunemi says we brainstorm. Now, this is how I like to do it with my students. I use a table. A table because there are two distinct areas that we need to think of today. We need to think of causes and of solutions. You do not have to use a table if you find it easier to just write bullet points or to draw a mind map, whatever works for you. But for me, I like to organize my ideas. So let's do this together. Let's look at the first column, the column on the left. What do you think are some of the causes of the problem of childhood obesity? Patricia says junk food. Okay, where do you think they get junk food? A lot of you are saying fast food, junk food. Where is that happening? Maybe at home, okay, maybe at school. Right. Loads of people talking about junk food. Junk food. Yeah, I would say that that is a problem. The availability of junk food at school. Give me something different. Absolutely. Easy access to junk food is a problem. So give me something different from this. Sedentary lifestyles, very nice. A lack of physical activity. What do you think's causing that? A lack of physical activity, a sedentary lifestyle. Jimena says games, sitting and playing games, okay. Screen time, okay. I've also got this one, the idea of cost, that the relative cost of unhealthy food is cheaper than healthy food, that it's cheaper to eat junk food than it is to buy the ingredients to make yourself a healthy meal. So we've got these three causes. What's our next step? Once we've generated ideas for the causes, Danish says we need to think about the solutions. Now, before I ask you about solutions, when I do this with my students, we often talk about some of the problems we have here. problems because they're worried about not knowing enough about the topic to actually come up with solutions. So what we do together is we ask some questions. For example, what could the individual do? In this essay question, the individual is the child. What do you think the child could do? Samia says, eat healthier food. What else could children do? Reduce their screen time. All right. Is there anything else children could do? Play games outside, enroll in a sport. Okay, that's nice. Sorry, it's gone by really quickly. Play more outside, exercise. Lovely. Play more physical games. Some of you even suggested maybe doing chores, household chores that are physical in nature, maybe like cutting the grass or something, doing the gardening. Okay. What about parents? What could parents do at home? So when we're thinking of solutions, we can think about everybody's role. What could parents do? We've got loads of ideas coming in for parents. Sorry, it's gone by really quickly and I've missed your name, but a lot of you are saying prepare healthier foods or pre-pack lunches. Put the children into sports clubs. Okay, what else do we have? Anything else they could do? Discipline, give them tasks, Mercedes says. Margarita says simply don't have junk food in the house. Okay, monitor screen time. Very good. Right, let's move on. What about schools? What could schools do for this question? Remember, everyone, answers in the chat box. We want to generate as many ideas as possible, but I can't see them if you put them in Q&A. So, yes, what could schools do? Think about the role of schools in this topic. Educate about nutrition, absolutely. Provide nutritional meals, offer healthier food, raise awareness, organise sports days. Brilliant. Let's think beyond that. What about companies and businesses? Let's think about traditional sort of fast food outlets, things like McDonald's or KFC. What could they do? What could they do? It's not the role of, okay, don't sell to children, Rosnika says, right? Increase the cost of unhealthy food. Provide fruit. Okay. Add more plant-based foods. Okay, great. And finally, let's think about government roles. What could the local government or the national government do? Mercedes says a law. Okay, what type of laws could they bring in? Introduce taxes. Gertrude says tax fast food. Increase tax sugary food, Seham says, and subsidize, Abdurrahman says, subsidize healthier foods. Great. So think of all of those ideas we've generated and then let's match them to our problems. So who do you think is responsible for number one and what could they do? Who's responsible for the availability of junk food and tell me what they can do? Write me a sentence, please. What could they do? Schools, Mohammed says ban junk food. Absolutely. What about number two? Who's responsible and what could they do? What's the solution to number two? The low cost of unhealthy food versus expensive healthy food. Mercedes says they could pass a law. I assume you mean governments. Absolutely. Governments could introduce a sugar tax. Finally, less exercise, more time in front of screens. Who's responsible? What could they do? Parents, what could they do? Ahlia. What could they do though? Lots of you are telling me who's responsible, but we need their solution. What's their solution? Okay, encourage children to spend time outside. Yeah, so parents could limit screen time and increase time outside. Good. We've generated our ideas. We're going to choose some of our ideas to write about. So let's think about what we expect an essay to look like. What would be the first paragraph of an essay? what's the first thing you should write? Absolutely. In our introduction, we rephrase the main problem, we summarize the main ideas of the essay, we outline the solutions. What do you think would come next for a problem and solution essay? The main body. What do you think we would include in our first main body paragraph? Emmanuel says the problem paragraph. Okay, yeah. So in this case, the causes, detail the causes or the problem and their effects, the impact of those problems. So what do you think our second main body paragraph would be about? Marina says the solutions. So we would detail the solutions and describe their effects, the impact of those solutions. And how do we finish our essay? Good. Our conclusion, where we refer back to the main problem and we summarize the solutions. Is this a structure that you've seen before? Is this a structure, an essay structure that you've written yourself? Tell me in the chat box. Okay, most people are saying yes. Some people are saying no, but most people are saying yes. So for that reason, I want to do a slightly different structure today. The introduction and conclusion are the same, but the difference is in our main body paragraphs. In our first main body paragraph, it's not just about causes, it's about a cause and its solution. What do you think our next main body paragraph will be? What do you think? The same. Absolutely, well done. Another cause and its solution. So this alternative structure is the one that we're going to work with today. It's not because one is better than the other. It's just to show you perhaps a different structure from the one you've tried before. So are we ready to get started? Do you want to see my introduction? Okay. Well, look on the screen just now. How many things should be included in my introduction? How many points should be included in my introduction? There should be 3. Okay. So when you look at my introduction, I want you to tell me, do you think I have covered all 3 points? I'll give you 30 seconds. What do you think? Do you think I've covered all 3 points? Let's look at it in detail with colour. And for this, I'm going to use a poll question. And I want us to identify what each sentence is doing here. So the next poll question 4, tell me, what is the first blue sentence doing, this very light blue? Is it outlining the solutions, rephrasing the main problem, or summarising the main ideas of my essay? The second sentence, the one in red, what's that doing? Is it outlining the solutions, rephrasing the main problem, or summarising the main ideas of my essay? And what about the final sentence? It's in a very dark blue. What's the purpose of that sentence? Is it outlining the solutions, rephrasing the main problem, or summarising the main ideas? Do try to answer in the poll if you can. If not, you can give me your ideas in the chat. The only place we ask you not to put your answers is in the Q&A because I can't see them. Katimbo, can you tell me which one you're talking about? Taiba, can you tell me which sentence you're referring to there? Thanks, Katimbo. You're right. Absolutely right. What about the next one? Okay, what do you think it might mean, Madiha? Estella, what sentence are you talking about there? Remember, answers in the poll or in the chat. That's right, Mohammed, well done. Okay, so let's have a look at the results. So the first sentence is, of course, is rephrasing the main problem from the question. Rephrasing because we don't want to copy the language of the question. We want to show the examiner that we understood the question and that we've got the vocabulary to talk about it. The red sentence, absolutely well done if you got this. This is summarizing the main ideas, summarizing the things that I'm going to look at in my essay. And finally, of course, this dark blue sentence is, in a very general way, is outlining the solutions, is mentioning the solutions. So what do you think? Have I shown the examiner that I've understood the question in my introduction? Good. I hope so. And do you think the examiner understands what they're about to read? What we're about to talk about in the essay? Great. That's the job of a clear introduction, to set it out for the reader, for the examiner, exactly what they're about to read. Okay, so we've done our introduction. What comes next? What's the next part of our essay? The main body. And how many main body paragraphs are there? For my example today, there are 2 main body paragraphs. So I'm about to show you one of my main body paragraphs, and I want you to tell me, is it main body paragraph 1 or main body paragraph 2? Okay, very good. Absolutely, everybody's got this. You've said that it's the second main body paragraph. How do you know that? What's a big clue? Absolutely. We begin with the word another. So I'm using a linking device to show you that this is the second or another one of my arguments. And what is the focus of this paragraph? What's this paragraph going to talk about? What's the focus of this? Adiba says exercise. Good. If I do this, we're going to use colour again. You can see that half of the paragraph is red, half of the paragraph is a dark blue colour. What does each colour represent? So tell me what the red represents. Good. So the red is a discussion of the cause. You can see in my first sentence, my topic sentence, I describe the cause. But more than just giving a cause of childhood obesity, I'm also talking about the effect of this. You'll see I've got 2 sentences that describe this cause. So what does the blue part represent? Tejesunimi says this is the solution. Good. But again, it's not just one sentence. I'm supporting my idea. What is the solution that I've provided here? The role of the parent, Mercedes says. Rizwan says limits on screen time. And what else? Encouraging more active activities. And then in the final sentence, you'll see that I'm describing the impact of that, the effect of that. Because cause and effect are a key aspect of problem and solution essays, which means we need to be comfortable with the language of cause and effect. So let's step away from the writing just now and let's look at a little bit of language. On your screen now, tell me, which of these things are the cause and which are the effect? We've got two nouns, two noun phrases. Which describes the cause and which describes the effect? Good. The cause is the lack of exercise, and the effect is, of course, weight gain. Definitely. What do we need to make this a sentence? What's missing? Katimbo, we need more than linkers. No, we need something much more important than that. Verbs. Okay, so give me a verb. A lack of exercise, give me a verb. A lack of exercise, Allah says, Seham says, results in weight gain. Good, give me a synonym. Something else that means the same. Victoria says causes. A lack of exercise causes weight gain. Anything else? Very good, but be careful with your preposition. One you might want to use is gives rise to. A lot of you, including Safi, said leads to. Prajit says the same. Another one could be a lack of exercise brings about weight gain. And a final one, a lack of exercise accounts for weight gain. Can you give me another example in the chat box, please? I mean another example sentence. I'm going to give you a word, isolation. What does isolation lead to, cause, bring about? Give me a sentence, a sentence. The reason for this is to make you write sentences. So I'm not interested in nouns. Sorry, I want sentences. Okay, good. So Isnad says isolation leads to depression. Rafiqul says isolation leads to obesity. Let's use something other than leads to. Danica, isolation brings about depression. Isolation accounts for loneliness, Ewan says. Very nice use of accounts for. Tijusanemi, isolation can result in a lack of socialization. Good. But we might want to do this. What's the difference here? What's the difference in this structure? You're right, Lien. I've changed it. I've swapped them round. It's vice versa. Rafnika says we start with the effect and then the cause, because we want to show the examiner some range in our grammar. So I want you to remember some of the phrases we used before and try to give me a sentence. Turn this into a sentence. Weight gain is caused by. Very nice. So we're beginning to use passive structures. Is due to, is because of, is caused by, is as a result of. Very nice, Luyali. Is brought about by, is on account of a lack of exercise. Very good. Would you like another bit of practice with these phrases? Another bit of practice. Okay. Well, let me show you the paragraph again. You might not have noticed this before, but I was actually using this language already in my main body paragraph, the paragraph that we saw before. What I've done now is I've removed the phrases, but I'd like you to put them back in. So in the chat box, please. Great, Marian says, I love to practice. That's great. So in the chat box, number your answers 1 to 3 and type them in the chat. You've got 35 seconds, maybe 40. Another 10 seconds. Make sure you number your answers so that I know if you've got them right. Well done, Gertrude. Just be careful with your typing. I think it was just typing, not spelling. I have to say, your spelling so far has been really good today. I know Mohammed spoke earlier about having problems with spelling, but I'm seeing it really well. Hi, Kuya. Okay, let's have a look at the answers, and I want you to tell me, how did you get on? Did any of you get 3 out of 3? Well done, Marion, celebrating. Yay, Bibriani says. Well done if you got 3 out of 3, Victoria, that's great. Well done, Gladys. If you got 2 out of 3, that's fantastic. If you got 1 out of 3, perhaps have a look again. When you get the link to the recording, slow down here and look again. But let me ask you, what helped you do this? What words in the passage, in the paragraph, helped you make your choice? The prepositions, Cornel says. What are the prepositions? Which of the words here are the prepositions? The words in blue. You're right, Mohammed. So of, to, and by. So this means that when you're learning language, it's not just about learning a verb. You need to look at how to use the verb in context. Look at the words around the verb. So when we talked earlier, before we started today, we talked a bit about how to improve spelling. And one of the recommendations was to read. And I agree. You can take a lot of vocabulary from reading, but it's important that you look at the words around that word, whichever word you want to take from a text. Look at the context. Pay attention to the features around it. Okay, let's go back to our essay now. So we've done our introduction. We did main body paragraph. How do we finish our essay? Okay, a conclusion. And do you remember what we include in the conclusion? Don't worry, Mohammed, it was a while ago. We refer back to the problem, good, and we do something else. Do we add in any new information? Okay, so we're not adding in any new argument or new information. Let's look at my conclusion. And let's see if we can remind ourselves. What are the 2 things that I have included in my conclusion? What is the sentence in red doing? What's the sentence in a dark blue doing? So that I can understand your answers, can you answer in a sentence, please? What is the red sentence doing? What's the dark blue sentence doing? Thanks, Kunal. Great. So the red sentence, as a lot of you identified, is referring back to the main problem in the question. It's reminding the examiner that you have addressed that problem, that you have understood the question and you have addressed it. So the part in blue is absolutely summarizing, as Rafiqul says, summarizing the solutions that you have given in your essay. So no, you're not adding anything new at this stage. You're just reminding the examiner, the reader, of everything that you've covered so far. What do you think? Would you be able to write a conclusion like this? It's 2 sentences. It's 2 sentences. Mohit says, I hope so. I know that you can. Mohammed, I know that you can. It's 2 sentences. You don't need to think up any new ideas. You just need to summarize the ideas that you've already discussed. Okay. Would you like to see my full essay? Sinimi says yes. Mercedes says, okay, all right. Rita says, yes, please. Okay. Lena says, yes. Okay. Right. When you give your essay to someone else, what do you expect from them? when you show your essay to a teacher or to a friend, what do you expect them to give you? Rothnishka says feedback. You expect feedback. So we're no different. I expect some feedback from you. We're going to look at my essay and I'm going to ask you some questions about it. So this is the full essay. I know it looks quite small. Sorry, it's a bit difficult perhaps for you to read, but it's 336 words. So I have exceeded the word count. Let me ask you about, first of all, about the colour coding. What do you think the red represents? What does the red represent throughout my essay? Good. It refers to the causes. It does. Throughout the essay, the red refers to the causes. So what does the dark blue represent? The solutions. Okay. So let's think about task response. Have I fully responded to the essay question? Have I talked about the causes and solutions? Excellent. Okay. So that's good. That's great. What about coherence and cohesion? What can you say about the organisation of my essay? Is it split into clear paragraphs? Can you see that the paragraphs are clear? Okay. And can you notice, are there any linking words? We looked at one earlier on. Are there any linking words in my essay? Can you find any examples of linking words? Madiha says, however, another, okay, therefore, okay. Anything else? I've used however a couple of times, I think. Okay. Good. Let's move on to the third criterion, lexical resource, the vocabulary. What do you think about my vocabulary? Have I used the same language again and again? Have I used childhood again and again? Okay, what synonyms of childhood have I used? Can you see any synonyms of childhood? Children, young people? Okay, great. And let's take a moment to look for any grammatical aspects. So I'd like to look for a more complex sentence, a sentence that contains more than one clause, perhaps something like a relative clause or a conditional. Is there anything like that in my essay? Can you see any examples of complex structures, like a relative clause or a conditional? Very good, Mercedes. Isnad. Well done, Mohammed. Amara. Okay. Mohammed, look again. We do have a couple of conditionals here. If governments. So what do you think? Have I covered all four aspects of the marking criteria of the band descriptors? Okay. Because what we've done together with my example essay is exactly what you should be doing at home. You should get into the habit of checking that you have fully addressed the question, checking for any mistakes with grammar, with vocabulary, checking that your paragraphing is very clear. So, what have we done today? Well, we've analysed the question and brainstormed causes and solutions, just 3 of those. Then we started to write with our introduction, and then our main body paragraphs were cohesive paragraphs with a clear idea of what they're about and appropriate use of the language of cause and effect. Gifty, we need to move on, but you will get a link to, a lot of people are asking me to go back, but we've only got 5 minutes left. Please remember that you will get a link to the recording. You can pause at my essay and take as long as you need to read it. We also, in our conclusion, we referred back to the main problem in the question, we summarised the solutions, and then we spent time at the end checking our work. Thank you so much for all of your feedback on my essay. I will take all of your feedback on board. We're going to move over to answer some of your questions, but before we do that, just to remind you that we're here every Thursday. Those of you who've been here before know this. Next week, we'll be back with vocab for IELTS. And Mariana's going to post the link again to the self-study pack to make sure that you are registered for this. Because remember, in the self-study pack, you've got additional material to help you prepare for your test. Thank you, Mariana. But before we go, we've got 5 minutes to deal with any questions that are left. So can I ask the team, which of the questions have we left till the end?
Hi, Daniela.
Hi, Sarah.
Sarah. Some very patient people here. Ish has been asking, how many causes and solutions do we need to write in the essay? And do we need to write it in 3 paragraphs?
Great, thanks, Ish. A really important question. The examiner doesn't have a prescribed number of causes and solutions that they're looking for. But what I would say is look at what I used. I used 2 causes and 2 solutions. And I would say that that's about right. Maybe 2 or 3 of each is about right. Because you don't want to write so many causes or so many solutions that you don't have space or time to talk about them. You should choose one cause and one solution and then provide support for it. And do that in each of your paragraphs. And it's absolutely fine if you have 2 main body paragraphs or 3 main body paragraphs, as long as you're doing that, as long as you're providing support for the solutions that you provide. I hope that answers that question, Sarah.
I think that answered that question and several others as well.
All right, okay,
So
great.
A question from Anne Pham, who's actually put up a lot of very interesting questions, but I think one that would be useful is, do we need to provide an example for each problem and solution?
That's a great question, Anne Pham, and it's a good way of supporting the problem. It's a good way of supporting your writing, getting into the habit of providing an example. Because remember, I keep going back to this, the thing that we want to avoid is just writing lists. So we want to talk about the ideas that we mentioned. And so to talk about the solution, you could describe the effect of the solution by giving an example of it. To talk about the problem, you could describe the effect of the problem by giving an example of it. So yeah, great idea, Anne Pham, to include examples in not just this type of essay, but in all of your essays. Maybe time for one more, Sarah?
Yeah, well, it's slightly different from Peter, who's asking, I think, a very practical question. How does the examiner determine the word count in the test on paper?
Well, can you believe it, Peter? They actually count your words. It's the job of the examiner to make sure that you do reach that 250. They will count the words. And for you, while you're preparing for your test, it's a good idea to have an idea of what 100 words looks like, what 50 words looks like in your own handwriting for you to do the same. You don't need to count every single word, but if you can count the number of words in your handwriting across one line times by the number of lines that you've written, that will give you an idea of what 250 words looks like in your own writing. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Peter.
Pleasure.
and Fam for your questions. Thank you, everyone, for your questions, and apologies if we've not been able to answer them all. Another busy day of webinars. But there is a place that you can ask questions, and that's in our official Facebook page. Every Friday, there is a session with the IELTS expert on hand to answer your questions. So do join the Facebook page if you haven't done so already. We also want you to come to our website, takeielts.org. This is where we have all of the material to help you prepare. Thanks, Adiba, to help you prepare for your test, including free practice tests. It's a really good idea if you are trying to decide whether to sit the test on paper or on computer, is to try both. Try the practice tests on our site and try the free familiarisation of the on-computer tests. You can also get a little bit more help with your preparation through Road to IELTS. And thanks, Mariana. Mariana's posting all of these links in the chat for you, as well as the IELTS Prep app. Look at the IELTS Prep app. It's got some model answers to writing task 2 and task 1 for you to look at. On the Prep app, you can also buy some extra practice tests. Books and study guides are available, and also some grammar, language practice to help you with maybe some more phrases of cause and effect or other vocabulary and grammar to help you across IELTS and with your general English, as well as skills practice at Learn English. Okay, that brings us to the end. And let me just thank you so much for all your wonderful ideas today. Really useful. We hope to see you again this time next week. If you've got your test in between, we all wish you the very best of luck. If not, we'll see you next Thursday, same time, same place. Take care. Bye.